Does it make you good or virtuous? It just makes you smart. Or at least not even made necessarily smart. 'Cause I guess if you were smart, you'd have prepared for this day long ago. Instead, it makes you alive. But there are worse things than being dead. In some cases, being alive. Because they're going to harass you one way or the other, for telling the truth or for lying. But the question is, do you have the courage to tell the truth? But in order to tell the truth, you have to be strong. You have to be able to absorb the consequences of it. Isn't that what lying almost always is? An effort to dodge the consequences of things because we're not able to handle them. We want to get out of the things that we've done, and so we lie about it because we want to not have to face up to it, not to deal with the consequences of it. That's why I don't trust weak people. No, they don't have senses of humor. They haven't thought things through. They don't have their own ideas. And that's the problem, is that most people are other people. I'll say that again. Most people are other people. They aren't themselves. Because to be yourself means to have courage. Because if I'm not myself, if I'm an avatar, if I pretend to be something because I'm trying to be accepted, and then someone hates on that, it's not really me, it's that persona. Man, when someone sees your shadow and they hit you with something heavy, yeah, that person who knows you can hurt you more than anybody because they know what to say. They know the things that affect you because they know the real you, not the superficial you that you present to the world. So the question is this: do you want to change the universe for the better, the truth, or do you want to chip away and try to corrupt the actual structure of the universe? Remember, there are gods. Gods create. It's the very nature of what it is for God to be God, to create. The very nature of what it is to be the devil is to destroy. People are like this too. What are you? Are you a god or are you a devil? Are you somebody who creates or somebody who destroys? So if you avoid conflict, it means you're afraid. Does it make you good or virtuous? It just makes you smart. Or at least not even made necessarily smart. 'Cause I guess if you were smart, you'd have prepared for this day long ago. Instead, it makes you alive. But there are worse things than being dead. In some cases, being alive. As the man said once before, cowards die 1,000 times before their actual death. But heroes taste of death but once. The valiant taste of death but once. Brave people taste of death just once. Now there are people who are dying every day because they're afraid of taking the next step. They're afraid. There are people who walk around the world and they have to be afraid. They should be afraid. Man, I live in South Park. I drive down the street in South Park and I see all these guys walking down the street and I think, man, if you have any intelligence at all, you're afraid right now. You should be anyway. You know, like they say, like there are girls who walk around and go, but girls can't walk down the street without feeling unsafe. There's something worse than that. The number of guys who walk down the street thinking that they're safe when they're really not. I just think of, I was driving down 30th a few weeks ago thinking, man, if I was a criminal, this would be like an ATM machine right here because of all the victims that are walking down the street. And it's part of the reason, it's part of the function of living in the society in which we live, in which we are incredibly safe. You might say, like, I don't feel safe. Okay, but put you in almost any other country, in almost any other time period in the history of the world, and you are way less safe. We're talking about crime rates here where we measure how many victims there are against 100,000 people. That's how we measure crime rates. It isn't like how many out of 10. Like when you go to New York, they talk about getting mugged over in New York. That's how they do measure it over there. Out of 10 people, how many are going to be mugged in the course of a year? I know a lot of people from New York, and overwhelmingly, they've been mugged at least once or twice. That's just kind of like life in New York. You get robbed. It's like living in San Francisco right now. Your car is going to get broken into. No, it really is. You look at the crime data in San Francisco. There are rental companies that plug in the price of broken windows into the rental cars because it's just going to happen. They know it's going to happen. So, in that case, there, like you're saying though, if they had been smart, maybe they would have prepared for the day when violence was necessary. Is there a day when violence is necessary?
Yes.
Maybe, probably, hopefully not. I oftentimes joke that this right here is the martyr's row. So someone comes to that door shooting, y'all are the first ones. So I hope that you guys are all capable of violence or at least capable of taking a lot of bullets. Bullet absorbers, bullet magnets. Yeah, bullet shields. Don't worry, I'll talk at your funeral, so I'll say something beautiful about each and every one of you. I'll say that you had a smile that lit up the room. But as you're saying, when a person's not capable of being strong, and then they're not strong, it isn't a virtue. It isn't a virtue. An example I was using last period was, let's say that we have a lion and a rabbit in the room here. Lion's in the corner doing what lions do, and the rabbit's over there in the corner just... If the rabbit does not attack the lion, do we sit there and go, what a wonderful rabbit. Wow, he's so virtuous. He doesn't attack the lion. No. What happens if the rabbit attacks the lion?
It's dead.
Everything you guys just said is probably true. Yeah, gets dead, gets eaten, might get stepped on. In fact, one of the worst things that could happen is maybe the rabbit even gets ignored. You know, the rabbit's like, he has the lion's fur, and the lion's just sitting there cleaning himself while the rabbit's just like trying to do something. And then the lion like shifts himself to clean, his back paws or whatever, and he rolls over and kills the rabbit, never even knows it's there. But if the lion does not eat the rabbit, now we've got a reason to say that perhaps the lion is good. By the way, if the lion eats the rabbit, the lion's not evil. The lion's just doing what lions do. Can't blame it. You put a baby in a room with a bear. What's the bear gonna do? It's gonna eat the baby. Yeah. Yeah, you take the bear in there and the baby's crying. Don't eat the baby. Do not eat it. Then you walk away, and then the bear eats the baby. Who's to blame? You. Yeah, the person who put the bear in the room with the baby. The bear is just doing what the bear does. The bear's not good. The bear's not evil. It's just doing what it does. When your cat is chasing a ball around the house and it knocks something over, is the cat evil? No.
Yes.
He's a sweet boy in that case. But no, if the cat knocks something over, the cat's not evil. It wasn't even thinking about it. It doesn't have the capability of thinking about knocking something over. If you put, you might say, well, it's your fault for putting the thing over there that can knock over. No, it's no one's fault in that case. If you put me in a room with a bag of Reese's peanut butter cups, what's going to happen to the Reese's peanut butter cups? Yeah, the whole bag. Whose fault is that? Yours, for putting me in the room with the Reese's peanut butter cups. Not mine. I'm just doing what Scanlon does, eating Reese's peanut butter cups by the bag. But the point is that you can hear how it is that we talk about good and evil and virtue in our society, and it's a complete inversion of what it actually is. We say like for example, the guys in this room. I feel really bad for you guys in this room, man. Dope. For the guys in this room, I feel really bad for you. And I mean that. Because what kind of messages are you constantly getting from society? Your highest virtue is to be harmless. Your very nature is toxic. You need to sit down and shut up and listen. All of which is just, who's telling you this?
Society.
Yeah, but my point is who's telling you this? Anybody with any... do any of you look at people who say that and go, wow, I want to be like you someday? No, there's never been a person who's corrected my language, or said, you can't say that. I've ever said, I want to be just like you someday. Just without the superciliousness and without being an asshole. I want to be just like you someday. But without the cowardice or the effort to tell me something because you think you have a society behind you to back you up and support you. Just like you in every other regard. Except for your lack of creativity and your lack of integrity and honesty. My point is that the people who will tell you you can't, would never tell you that unless they believe that they had people behind them and supporting them and backing them up. These are people who are trying to use social power against you because they've been incapable of competing in the society in which they live. These are people who want everybody else to change so that they can feel particularly safe. Why? Because they're weak, because they're cowards, because they have to have people behind them. Without that, they would never have the courage to say anything, to speak up. And so what you have is a society of weaklings who are trying to keep the strong people in check, trying to keep the strong people in line. Do they really care about the jokes you make? Not really. They just want to be able to tell you what you can and can't say. That's the only semblance that they have of power, to try to stop you from being who you should be. Remember, everybody else should be what they are, except for you. And if enough of us say it, and I blame them, of course, for being weak. But I also blame those of you who go along with it. When you say, okay, I guess I can't say that. Really? There are things you shouldn't say, things that you should say, but you by and large know what these things are. As you're saying, what is it to be a good person? You can, if you're thinking about it, if you're reasoning about it, you can figure these things out. You know, like I was saying, well, I joke about everything, but I don't make fun of you for things you can't control. If you can control it, I'm all over you about it. Some of y'all, the haircuts you chose, man, you chose those haircuts. Mine wasn't chosen. Mine is genetic. Everybody else, you've all chosen it. No, but the things that you can't control, fine. There's plenty of things that we do that we can make fun of. But to make fun of someone for the purpose of making them feel bad, that's a bit different. That's a bit different. If it makes you feel bad, if it makes you feel silly, sometimes there's a reason for that. Because sometimes you are being silly, sometimes you are being off the wall, of course. It's up to you to kind of figure those things out. But think about what you're saying when we expect the whole world to change to suit us. Is there another definition of narcissism that you can think of? It's more fitting than that?
Arrogant.
What's that?
Arrogant.
No, arrogance is part of it. It's that belief that I know what's best for the world. The history is full of people who said that they know what's best. And what they really mean is, I know what's best for me, that I can then impose it on society. It's funny that the people whose lives are the worst mess are the ones who are all about telling the rest of us how to live and what we should do, what we should say, and what we can't do, and what we can't say. These are people who, I bet you if you went to their houses, their rooms are a mess. Their beds are unmade. They probably have crappy handwriting, I don't know. But that's because they want to exercise a type of social power that they don't have to enforce themselves. It's like, I thought you were brave. No, you were a weakling who was pretending to be good. If this guy really, even think about this, not to be a jerk, but if this guy really believed what he was saying, he was in a perfect position to protect his mom from the bad guy, wasn't he? Who intentionally disrespected her. No, he didn't want to. He wanted to run back inside. And what did he say when he got back inside? I'm the bigger person. Because that's how we make ourselves feel better, by letting evil flourish. I'm just going to be the bigger person. Sometimes it's in your best interest to let things go. It was in his best interest to let things go. Sometimes it's in your best interest, and even in society's interests, to say something, to do something. Knowing what time it is wisdom. Knowing which one of those you should do, that's a course of wisdom. You don't want to walk around punching everybody you meet at Target. But you also don't want to walk around letting everybody who does evil go and consoling yourself with the idea that I'm supposed to be harmless, that's what society expects out of me, so you know what, I'm going to be the bigger person. And then we wonder why things get so screwed up. We wonder why evil flourishes. We wonder why all of a sudden we fast forward even just a few years and go, wait, we can't make jokes anymore? Of course you can. Of course you can. Do you have the courage to? Do you have the guts to? And then when someone asks you about it and confronts you about it, do you have the courage to be honest and truthful? If you want people to not believe you, by the way, tell them the truth. I find this to be the case. A lot of times when I tell people the truth about something, they think I'm joking. And then oftentimes when I'm joking, people think I'm serious. But if I tell you the truth, a lot of times people will be like, oh, okay, whatever, this guy's just being sarcastic. No, I'm being truthful, I'm being honest. People won't believe you anyway. You might as well tell them the truth. And so they ask you, about the things that you say. Do you have the courage to stand up and say, here's why I say what I say. Here's why I believe what I believe. Here's why I think what I think. And that doesn't mean that you're right about everything. And it certainly doesn't mean that you go around and you troll everybody, because then your word doesn't mean anything anyway. What you might as well do is tell the truth, because you're going to be judged well, you're going to be judged badly. I had a student a few years ago. I was reading his journal, and he was telling me that he's the kind of person that if you ask him something, he'll tell you the truth. But if you keep asking him, he gave me an example, like his mom, if she kept like asking him, where were you yesterday? Where were you yesterday? Where were you yesterday? And if he didn't do anything wrong, finally he'll say, fine, whatever. And he'll lie to tell his mom what she wants to hear. And then she'd be like, oh, I knew it. And then he'd get in trouble. But his thing was like, I just don't want to keep repeating myself. I don't want to get that. I understand that impulse, but here's the problem. Now what you've done is you've trained your mom and the people around you that you're a liar, and all they have to do is ask you enough times, and you'll finally tell the truth. Truth, of course, is not really the truth, it's a lie. And then you've also trained yourself, sometimes it's better to lie than to stand up for what's true. Because you're going to harass you one way or the other, for telling the truth or for lying. But the question is, do you have the courage to tell the truth? But in order to tell the truth, you have to be strong. You have to be able to absorb the consequences of it. Isn't that what lying almost always is? An effort to dodge the consequences of things because we're not able to handle them. We want to get out of the things that we've done, and so we lie about it because we want to not have to face up to it, not to deal with the consequences of it. That's why I don't trust weak people. The people who come along and tell you, like, you can't joke about that. You ever met one of those people who tells you that you can't joke about things and they're funny? You ever met one of those people? I haven't. I think they're funny to laugh at, but But then you ask them, like, can you tell me a joke then? Like I'll tell you jokes all day. You guys know this. But can you ask them? Can you tell me a joke? The person who tries to police your language, ask them. It probably won't be funny. Why the chicken cross the road? I don't know why. To get to the other side. Get it? Because the road was there, then they had to move over. No, yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't think about that. That's because you only think about yourself. Then they'll storm away because they got to make a point. No, they don't have senses of humor. They haven't thought things through. They don't have their own ideas. And that's the problem, is that most people are other people. I'll say that again. Most people are other people. They aren't themselves. Because to be yourself means to have courage. Because if I'm not myself, if I'm an avatar, if I pretend to be something, so I'm trying to be accepted, and then someone hates on that, it's not really me, it's that persona. Man, when someone sees your shadow and they hit you with something heavy, that person who knows you can hurt you more than anybody because they know what to say. They know the things that affect you because they know the real you, not the superficial you that you present to the world. When someone attacks your shadow, they're attacking you. When someone attacks your persona, they're attacking something that's fake and false. Now, all that means is now you have to modify it. If that. But man, tell the truth, absorb the consequences, good or bad. Don't run away from struggle. Face everything. Because if you don't say what you think, I'll leave it with this. If you don't say what you think, if you don't say what you really believe, the real you never is born. The real you never enters the world. And the truth is that when you speak, you change the universe. And I mean that, not hippy-dippy way, not like everybody's changed by it. The sound waves you create go into the universe, and you literally change the structure of the universe by the things that you say. Also, of course, by the things that you do, they reverberate. So the question is this: do you want to change the universe for the better, for the truth? Or do you want to chip away and try to corrupt the actual structure of the universe? Remember, there are gods. Gods create. It's the very nature of what it is for God to be God, to create. The very nature of what it is to be the devil is to destroy. People are like this too. What are you? Are you a god or are you a devil? Are you somebody who creates or somebody who destroys? Or at the very least, somebody who's in alignment with truth in the universe? It's your call. Every day, in little tiny ways. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Good. Some of you just lied. I hope you told the truth. I hope you did tell the truth. And when you say, I'm doing good, I hope you really literally mean that. Not, I'm doing well, but you're doing good. You're doing proper moral action. However it is you see that. It's up to you to figure that out for yourself. What are questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Tuesday. He's a good man with a Dodger hoodie, by the way.